That resulted in 80% more energy in the collision.
Which is what was really going on in the field. The government's protection is way outdated. We got SUVs and pickups and a lot bigger now.
It's really hard, I think, for people to grasp 40,000 fatalities, right? 40,000 deaths.
Yeah, we're killing that many people, but for some reason, it just doesn't resonate like anymore.
All of this supports our mission, right? I mean, it's very simple: saving lives, preventing harm on our roadways. It's not rocket science, right?
All right, hi, I'm Doug Campbell, president of the Automotive Safety Council. I'm sitting here with Dr. David Harkey, the president of the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. David, it's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Thanks for coming to our annual meeting and presenting. Great information. Really appreciate it. So I know during your presentation, one of the things I've been kind of passionate about is this side impact protection, because the government's protection is way outdated because they're using the typical average vehicle of 1980. And of course, we got SUVs and pickups and a lot bigger now. And so I don't know if the public really knew, but the average vehicle is about 2,200 kilograms now. And we're only protecting by the government, we're only protecting to 1,380 kilograms. So, I mean, it was way out of date. And I just love the fact that you guys stepped up and do that. What tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's funny, our original side crash test we introduced way back in 1993. Right? It's about the time when we started to really see SUVs on our roadways, right, enter the marketplace. Before side curtain airbags and a lot of other features that we now have on vehicles. And it was one of our most successful programs. When we look at the crash data and we look back, and we were seeing it, if you were in a vehicle that got a good rating from us at that time in that test, you were 70% less likely to be killed than if you were in a vehicle on a poor rating. But even with those improvements, around 2015 or so, we started to really look at the crash data again. And it's important to understand that everything we do, that's where it starts, in the real world crash data. Almost a quarter of our fatalities that occur on our roadways are still in those types of crashes, those types of T-bone crashes. And so we took a research study, started to try and understand exactly what was happening, look at that real world crash data in more depth. What we found was two things. One you just mentioned, which was we need to increase the mass of our movable barrier. And so we went from about a 3,000 pound barrier to a 4,000 pound barrier. We were also seeing in real world crashes, the speeds were much higher. So we increased our speed from 31 miles per hour to 37 miles per hour. That resulted in 80% more energy in the collision.
Which is what was really going on in the field.
Exactly. And so we started to run all of our vehicles through our new crash test. The first class of vehicles that we ran were small SUVs. Most popular.
Going back to the original.
Absolutely. So it's the most popular class of vehicle on our roadways. 20 vehicles. All of them got a good rating in our original side crash test. One got a good rating in our updated crash test. And so it was one of those moments when we realized, okay, the auto industry now has to respond again. We've raised the bar, and they're doing that. And so slowly over time now, we're seeing them start to improve their structures within their vehicles and add more safety protection to protect people in those side impact crashes. And at some point, we will go back and we'll look at the real world crash data again, and we'll see what kind of effectiveness we have had with our updated test.
That's what I love about you guys. I've been talking to about this for years, quite frankly. I haven't seen anything even in the research side. They're just not moving forward on it, and you're protecting the public with your work. And that's what I love about it, because it doesn't take you years. It takes you data analysis, then a commitment that yes, we should do something, and then you do it, and the car companies respond. I mean, I just love it. So I think that's just the beauty of your organization and the effect you have on people with your ratings, because people do pay attention to the ratings and Consumer Reports and other places too. But so it's I just appreciate it really a whole lot, and I'm seeing you continue to do that in other areas like headlights.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of this supports our mission, right? I mean, it's very simple: saving lives, preventing harm on our roadways. It's not rocket science, right? In terms of what we're trying to
Right.
accomplish here. And so yeah, in addition to looking at our crash worthiness test and trying to figure out where we go next there, we've been looking at different types of crash prevention technologies. And we always kid that the original crash prevention technology on a vehicle is the headlights.
Right. And they kind of ancient technology that
Yeah.
all of a sudden has new technology now, but again, the regulations haven't kept up.
Yep.
And somebody has to do something.
Yep. And so we introduced a headlight test. It's now been more than a decade that we've been running this test, which is hard to believe. But at our test facility, we have an outdoor track. We run vehicles through it, a couple curves, a couple tangent sections, different speeds, and we're measuring two things. One is visibility, how far down the road you can see as a driver, which is really important. It gives you more time to detect something that may be a hazard and respond to it. But then the other one that's important, and the one we hear complaints about, is glare.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can create a really bright headlight that can see for a long ways, but you can also blind that oncoming driver.
Absolutely.
And so we look at both of those metrics, and what we've seen over time is that headlights have improved. And by the way, we don't care about what technology you're using. You know, this is a performance-based
Yeah, it doesn't have
requirement.
to be LED, it doesn't have to be whatever. It's just, yeah.
That's right. And so, but what we've seen over time is visibility has gone up with headlights. They've gotten better, and glare has actually gone down. And so it's one of those things. It's, you know, if you don't measure it, you don't know anything about it,
Right.
right? And so this is one of those things. We're measuring this on vehicles that have been produced. They're out there in the marketplace, available for consumers to buy. And so we've seen a number of vehicles now that have good and acceptable rated headlights, and that's part of our award criteria. You must have good or acceptable rated headlights to be eligible for either of our top safety pick awards. And the most important part of that, we talk a lot about safety equity or democratization of safety. Those good or acceptable rated headlights have to be available on all trim levels. So it's not one of
Can't
those.
play the luxury game.
No, you cannot play that game, and so that's really important to us.
So there's still, though, some that are not acceptable or good, I assume, that you're still finding. And but yeah, you know, these new LED with all these pixel counts, they can direct those individual pixels anywhere they want with the computer.
Yep.
I mean, it's just amazing the kind of improved visibility you can get on those kind of things.
Yeah, it is, and that technology, the whole adaptive driving beam technology, is something that is not yet available on a wide number of
I know.
vehicles. You know, NHTSA's not quite there yet.
I know. Preventing good stuff from coming again.
Yeah.
It's been in Europe for a long
Yeah.
time.
They have, and so that certainly is the technology of the future, the immediate future. It's here now, and so we just need to be able to get that one across the finish line. And I think, and again, it'll prevent those glare problems from occurring and increase that visibility, which is what we want.
You know, I was just astounded. You know, I was so happy working in safety my whole career. And, you know, when we got to the 2000 to 2010 time frame, and we're watching both the fatality rate per 100 million miles driven and also the total fatalities going from 42 down to 32. And I thought, yeah, we're really making a difference. I'm loving it. And then all of a sudden, and Europe keeps going down. And
Yeah.
just watch. Of course, they keep put on more and more safety technology. And all of a sudden, we turn up and we go back up to 42 again, or 44 even.
Yeah.
And it's just drives me crazy. And it seems like everyone's kind of numb to this. Yeah, we're killing that many people. And, you know, people from the perspective of how many jumbo jets that would be crashing, that would be that many people dying,
Yeah.
or any other kind of perspective you put it into. But for some reason, it just doesn't resonate like anymore. And so I like the concept that you guys have been looking at as far as trying to make it to a more graspable community-based level on how to deal with this. And so tell me how you've been working on those areas.
Yeah, I think one of the really important things is it's really hard, I think, for people to grasp 40,000 fatalities, right? 40,000 deaths. And yeah, you can use whatever examples you want of how many people that that is, right, in terms of filling up an airplane and those sorts of things. But I think it's just really hard for that to resonate. And so, we've had Vision Zero in this country and in a lot of communities for a very long time. But we really haven't made any progress. And to your point, we've actually gone the opposite direction.
Which is just stunning when you consider the technology we've put in.
It is. And so we've had this like 30% rise in fatalities over a very short time period. And I really think in order for us to get to a point where people can understand when we talk about getting to zero, or in our 30 by 30 program of trying to get fatalities reduced 30% by 2030, I think instead of talking globally or nationally about the numbers, we need to talk at a community level, to your point. And so I'm not sure that the 40,000 resonates with the shopkeeper or the teacher, right, in a community. But if you talk about the 100 fatalities that may have occurred in your town, in your community, and some of those people may have been people you know,
right,
it may resonate, and you may get them to understand, yeah, we can reduce the fatality numbers in our community by 30%, or we can get that number to zero. That's what we're really trying to focus on, is to get people to think about community-based solutions. So think about the problems that are occurring in your community, because not all communities are equal. Different communities have different kinds of problems, and think about the problems in your community and how you can reduce those fatality numbers and save lives of perhaps your neighbors, your friends, your family. And that's what we're focused on.
I mean, maybe they need a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit where it's 35 now.
Exactly.
Or maybe they need some type of a smart traffic light that warns vehicles when the light's going to change or something. I mean, there's a lot of simple solutions that can be done in solving some, like you say, community level based things. Then all of a sudden your friends and neighbors aren't being killed, or there isn't the accident. And I mean, to me, I'll give you a personal history. Back when I first started working on developing side airbags, we had developed them, but I couldn't get the car companies to put them in yet. They just didn't want to do it yet. And one of our friends, senior in high school, was driving to ice hockey practice in the morning on an icy day, lost control, hit a tree from the side, killed him on a side impact. And I was just distraught because I knew we had the technology that could have saved his life, but we just couldn't get it put in yet. Now, eventually, of course, we did get it put in, but it was such a personal thing to me that I could have saved him and I didn't. And it just was heart-wrenching. That's just the way it is. So like you say, get down to the local level, have people feel what it is, and then maybe they'll understand it better and maybe demand more or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you bring up another important point there, which is not all solutions are in the vehicle, right? And so we really need to be thinking, that's another one of the C's of safety that we try to think about, is you need a comprehensive approach. And that's what the safe system is all about, is thinking about what you can do with respect to improvements in vehicle safety, improvements in road safety, changing behaviors, changing policies. All of these things have to work together, because like your friend, people will make mistakes. We know that.
Yeah.
But if we can build enough redundancies into the systems in all of these areas, no one has to die because they made a mistake on the roadway.
And I think you do a far side impact test now also, do you? On site impact?
No,
Far-side
we're not.
document
We're doing some research testing, but we're not
okay.
doing that one.
Okay, that's another one near to my heart.
Yep.
But, so you talked about you mentioned your 30 by 30 program, and which is admirable. And what kind of facets are you looking at in that? Because that's a tall order in a short period of time. So you have to do more than just get a technology in a car that takes 30 years to get to 100%. So, I mean, in 4 years, you'd only have 8% of the fleet or something. Yep. So what are you doing in your 30 by 30?
Yeah. So this was something that came about as part of our strategic planning process that we went through a couple years ago now. And so we had seen that sharp rise in our fatality numbers from just under 33,000 in 2014 to just under 43,000 by 2022. And so when we started to think about that and what we could do and what kind of initiatives we could put in place, we were all frustrated. The Vision Zero was not going in the right direction,
No.
things at all. We were going in the opposite direction. And so as part of our strategic planning effort, I put this vision out there to my team. I think they all thought I was a little crazy when I first did it, but that's okay. They came around. They believed in it. And so we're doing a lot of work in that area to try and do that. And there's some really fundamental components of that, because we realize, to your point, that this is not going to all happen in the vehicle space. That takes time. And so that's the long game. We need to continue to make those improvements, but we know that's going to take time. So we really got to work on how we can change policies, how we can change our infrastructure, and our traffic operations, things like safety cameras and red light cameras. They can go a long ways to helping us get to this 30% goal that we have.
Getting people to wear seatbelts.
Getting people to wear seatbelts. There are simple things that we can do today that don't take a long time to implement. And I would say one of the most important things that we're really focused on is doubling down, tripling down on the commitment. And what I mean by that is anybody that's been involved in road safety for a long time has always been committed and is passionate about the work that they do. But I think we need to pull together, speak with one voice more frequently about the problems we face and the solutions that are out there. And so it's about getting all of the stakeholders in road safety, and maybe some you haven't even thought about being a stakeholder in road safety, getting them together, getting them to partner, getting them to collaborate more. And I think that's a big part of what we're trying to push. And we've made a lot of progress on that in the past year. And we've got a number of initiatives that we're now focused on, where it's not just IHS who is touting something or putting something out there and trying to push it. It's 3, 4, 5 groups collectively. And I think that's going to be really important. And the Automotive Safety Council is a big part of that.
You know, as an example, we teamed up with the road striping people because we know from our driver assist cameras that they can see farther in the distance and make better decisions if the striping on the road had better visibility, better reflectivity, and better yet, wider. And so for higher speeds, where the road is obviously, the pavement's coming by very quickly, to see down the road farther, just going from a 4-inch to a 6-inch stripe makes a world of difference on our camera capabilities. And so therefore, lane keeping or other decision making, or going off the road, leaving the road surface because you can see the line very well or whatever, made a big difference. And so we're working with Federal Highway to try to get that into the highway standards called the MUTCD, the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. But anyway, that's stepping out of the box for us. I mean, it's like, what could we do to make our technology in our current vehicle, this is where you don't have to put it on the vehicle, it's already on the vehicle. How can we make that technology function better? And so, and just like seatbelts, I don't think the public really understands, because they don't follow it like we do, but 50% of the fatalities of that 42,000 people, 50% of them are not belted.
That's right.
But yet, statistically, only about 10% of the people don't wear their seatbelts, to show you the magnitude of it. So if we could just get that 10% to buckle up, you could potentially, without putting anything new on the vehicle, just utilizing what's already there, you could potentially save 10,000 or more lives. It's just simple things like that that I don't think the public quite understands. And yes, there's resistance and whatnot, but it's the magnitude we can get on these things.
Yeah. Well, there's so many solutions like that that seem to really be hard to get into place. And so some of it is changing consumers, right? Getting them to be more accepting of these very simple actions that they can take. Some of it is changing policy. That's a little harder. And I think it's interesting. You were talking about the Safety Council kind of stepping out, doing something now with FHWA, thinking about pavement markings, which is not necessarily in your domain,
Nope.
right? But I think that's an example of looking for those partnerships, those stakeholders, those opportunities to do more outside of your area expertise. It's back to that collectively speaking with one voice approach.
Absolutely.
And you may not realize who some of those stakeholders were. One of my fun stories from my years at the UNC Highway Safety Research Center, I used to have to go testify before the North Carolina state legislature occasionally. One of their favorite topics was repealing the motorcycle helmet law.
Oh, God. Yeah, we did that in Michigan. It's been terrible.
And so, we would go armed with all of the facts, showing them the immediate consequences if you did that. Certainly, Michigan was in a state that we used as an example of what happened when you would do that. And we could give them all the facts. We could give them all the numbers. We could make all of the pleas about why they did not want to repeal this law. It was never as impactful as when a group of trauma surgeons appeared before that committee in their doctor's coats, right? They're all showing up. They're all standing behind us. And they're talking about the traumatic injuries that they're having to treat. They're talking about the conversations they have to have with family members about what just happened and that they're not going to be able to save their loved one.
Or they're not going to be functioning like they once did.
Absolutely. And so, and that had the immediate impact of stopping all efforts in the legislature. And that's not a group of stakeholders that I would have thought about reaching out to beforehand. But I always keep that in the back of my mind because there's always some group out there that can make an impact that you may not see. And so, consider that. Think broadly.
Maybe we need to get those surgeons into Michigan.
That's
get the
right.
Michigan surgeon to go do the same thing because I was just really surprised when they repealed the helmet law. And then immediately, of course, the motorcycle deaths went up. I mean, it's just tied together. It's just one of those things. So I don't know, riding around with your hair in the wind versus not being able to think again. I don't know. But well, at any rate, I just really appreciate what the Insurance Institute does for safety. You're moving the needle forward. It's what our country needs. Unfortunately, the government, because of politics or other reasons, just is slow moving, unwilling, whatever you want to call it. And we've just fallen behind the rest of the world. I mean, my gosh, Europe went from 4,000 deaths in 2000 down to 19 in 2022, I believe it is. And that was just purely non-regulatory public education from testing like you do. They do a STAR rating, you do a Safety Top Plus pick. But, just informing the public that these vehicles with this have these safety equipment and here's how we rate them. And to me, it's let capitalism work. I mean, you don't have to put the equipment on. The public doesn't have to buy cars with the equipment on. But when they're educated with what that equipment can do and what it means, it's stunning how they will pick the right decision. They want the company, their car to be safe. And Europe has proven that. I mean, without regulation, they brought that all the way down just purely through customer education with testing, which is what you do also. And hopefully it's turning the tide here in the States too. But unfortunately, our NCAP is controlled by the government. Europe is not, and that's just the difference in how things get implemented. But I think we just got to keep educating the public and let them make good choices because I know they will.
And I think that is the two parts of our program when we talk about what is it we're trying to accomplish. I think one is certainly that, right? Trying to get the consumers to understand here's what we're trying to improve, here's how we're going about it, here's what you need to understand in terms of protecting yourself and your family and your neighbors, et cetera. And that includes all aspects, not just vehicle safety, but it also includes, all those aspects of community safety that we were talking about earlier. But I think the other one is the other goal of our program is to encourage automakers to do more,
Absolutely.
Right? And that's where our ties to Automotive Safety Council are so important because this is the group that makes a lot of the technology, right? That's going into vehicles. And so getting them to understand the a lot of the research that we do, what's behind that, and then what the potential is for interventions of the future, or what the safety effectiveness of things that they have developed
Absolutely.
is.
I
And
mean,
it's important to see the success side.
I love the fact that you share that data for free.
Yeah.
And gives us that feedback as to how the technologies are actually working in the real world.
Mhm.
So if we know we're doing the right thing or how we need to tweak it,
Yep.
that's been very powerful.
So we will continue that. That's our mission. We will keep doing that moving forward, and we always appreciate the partnership.
Well, I love it. We love working with you, and hopefully we're going to get this needle moved and get the public in those communities getting to hug their relatives and their friends instead of putting them in the ground.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
David, thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay.